Welcome, everyone, to the ComedySportz Podcast with your host, Christine Rollo Capriolo. And today's guest, the man who brings a special style to cut up comedy, Al of 1,000 Dances, Oldham.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the ComedySportz Podcast. It's Christine Rollo Capriolo. I am really excited, and I say that every time I start an episode. But whenever someone asks me who would be my dream team to play with, I always mention this guy. He would always be, yes, you would. Every time. If I got to stack the show with the players that I'd want to play with, I always say Al Oldham.
Oh, thank you.
You're
That's
welcome.
so nice. Thank you.
It's true.
You'd be on my team, too.
Oh, stop it. Now you're just saying that. Everybody, it's Al Oldham here, Milwaukee Comedy Sports legend. I'm going to say it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I loved playing there. It was fantastic.
Al, tell me, we're going to just start.
Okay,
Where are you
okay.
from? Where were you born and raised?
Yikes. This is a big one. So I was born in Southern California. I was born in a tiny little town called Brawley.
Really?
It's real border town, Southern California. Same town that Cher was born in.
Oh.
So, the family moved there. My family, they were Dust Bowl people. Family moved and settled there, yada, yada. I was born there. Then they moved around a little bit, and we lived in Southern California for a long time, then Northern California. Then eventually I moved to Madison. There's a lot of travels in between there.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I moved to Madison and settled in Madison and then moved to Milwaukee.
Okay. Why did you go to Madison? Was that for school?
I did originally move to Madison to go to school.
Okay.
I got a job working at Pizzeria Uno's on
Yeah.
State Street.
Sure.
And got a transfer to Milwaukee. They were going to be opening up a new store in Bayshore.
Okay.
And that store never opened. And I had the opportunity to either move back or I could take the job back in Madison or have no job at all. So I opted to just stay in Milwaukee and got a job waiting tables at ComedySportz' second location, or I guess their new location on Jefferson Street when they closed Cults or stopped operating at Cults and opened up their own location on Jefferson Street.
Okay. Well, wait. Back up a second.
Yeah.
What kind of kid were you?
Ooh, I was a shy kid.
You were?
I was a really, really shy kid. I was an asthmatic. And
You have asthma?
I have asthma. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I was a very, very sick kid.
Yeah.
And because we lived in Southern California, it was the time of smog. And
yeah.
So early 70s. So I was kept inside. So TV was my thing.
Okay.
And I was a really, really shy kid. I didn't interact with a lot of people. I didn't have a lot of friends. I was really quiet.
Really?
And I stayed very much to myself growing up. I was a very, very, very quiet, introverted kid.
So you're watching a lot of TV. Did you like comedy?
Loved comedy. Oh, I loved comedy.
What were
That
some
was
of your
my thing.
favorites?
Cartoons. I loved cartoons.
Okay.
I could probably recite every episode of I Love Lucy.
Okay.
Happy Days.
Yeah.
Laverne and Shirley. Mork and Mindy. Three's Company. We weren't policed by our parents at the time. So, we could watch really anything on television that we wanted. I remember watching Elvira's movie Macabre, if you know what that is.
I totally remember Elvira.
And so these things shaped kind of my warped sense of humor, right? And so all these different folks kind of helped shape where my sense of humor comes from.
Okay.
So, yeah, for sure.
Oh, my God. So, okay, now when you said you went to Madison originally for school, were you going to study theater?
No, I actually wanted to be a teacher, believe it or not.
Did you really?
I did. I wanted to be a teacher. And then, being around kids and working with kids, and I was like, I hate this.
I can kind of relate.
And I did not have the patience for children, and I was like, there's no way that this is for me. And I thought I wanted to be an English teacher. I wanted to teach English initially and then go into being a drama teacher.
Okay.
And then I was like, this is not for me. This is not at all for me.
How long did you put in?
2 years under my belt.
2 years.
And then
You're like, nope,
not for me. Definitely not for me.
So then when you decided to stay in Milwaukee, why did you stay here?
I stayed in Milwaukee. I met my ex-wife.
Okay.
And we got married. She was from here. Things were great here with
okay.
her. And I loved Milwaukee.
Yeah.
It was the home of Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? Home of Happy Days.
Happy Days.
So I really do love Milwaukee.
Oh,
Milwaukee is a really great small city. And it's a really great big town. And there's a
Yes.
lot to do here. People really don't appreciate Milwaukee the way that they should. We have
agree.
a really great art scene.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
have a ballet. We have a symphony. We have things to do here.
Sure.
And people are really surprised when they get to Milwaukee at all the cool stuff we have. And I'm not even talking about Summerfest.
Right.
Like that alone, and all the ethnic festivals that we have all year
Right.
long. So anyway, so I fell in love with Milwaukee. And
Okay.
it was like, yeah, this is home now.
So then how did you hear about Comedy Sports? You said you got a job waiting tables at Comedy Sports.
Yeah. When I worked at Pizzeria Uno's in Madison, I had
Mm-hmm.
worked with several guys who worked for State Street Comedy Sports. So
Okay.
guys who were part of the Burt Furschners.
Oh,
Let's
like
go
Mike
on-
Rock.
Mike Rock, Graham Willoughby, Mark Hervey, guys
Okay,
that are
yeah.
probably going to go way, way back.
Yeah.
And Joe Thompson, who was one of the guys from Comedy Sports,
Right.
trained me at Pizzeria Uno's.
Oh,
he
my
was,
God.
Yeah, one of the guys I worked with. He and his wife were both the folks that had trained me. So I was familiar with Comedy Sports.
Okay.
But because I was so kind of shy and quiet, I was like, that's just not for me. And when people described Comedy Sports to me as this kind of pseudo improv comedy thing that was a little bit like, I pictured in my head something more like Monty Python. And that wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
It was not my thing. So I never went to see a show.
Okay.
And when I interviewed at Comedy Sports here, I lied and said I had seen a show. And I believe they called Joe Thompson. They may or may not have. Jennifer Rupp interviewed me.
Yeah.
And I believe they called Joe Thompson to check my references.
Sure.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
And I believe Joe must have given me a good recommendation because I got the job. And that was it. I started waiting tables, took the workshops, and eventually got asked to do a show.
Right. So what was it about Comedy Sports once you got there and you're waiting tables and you're seeing shows, right? What was it that really drew you in?
So I had done some theater in high school and done
Okay.
some theater post-high school,
Yeah.
working with a repertory company in Northern California. And I had seen these theater games done mainly like improvisational freeze tag games. So I was familiar with these things that the guys and gals were doing on stage. But I didn't know how broad it was, and I didn't know that there was times to it, and that it was set up in this sports type format. So when I saw what they were doing as sort of this performance sports format, I was blown away by it.
Really?
I was totally blown away by it. It was something that I had not seen before, because to try to describe Comedy Sports to somebody is nearly impossible, because it doesn't really have anything to do with the sports aspect, right? Like the fact that there are two teams competing, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's really about the show.
Yeah.
And it's really about, you've got, at the time they had 8 people.
Oh, yeah, 4 and 4.
Yeah, they had 4 and 4.
Right.
And then they had Mr. Voice, they had Roger doing sound effects. They had Paula doing music. Plus, occasionally they would have a prop boy or girl, right?
Which is usually a Cafaro child.
Right, exactly.
Right.
And so they had a lot of stuff. I mean, they had a lot more than they do now.
The Ballet Parkers.
Ballet Parkers. Oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a crazy big show.
Was, yeah.
And it was wild to watch.
Yeah.
I just remember being in awe watching these men and women on stage who I was just blown away by how fast they were, how professional they were, how quick they were. I worked with guys, Tom New, Angelo Farina, Joe Cortese, Holly Ignatowski. I mean, these men and women who I was astounded at how amazingly funny and fast they were.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're watching that, working on wait staff, and you think, I'm going to try it? I'm going to do workshops?
I'm going to do workshops, but it wasn't, I didn't have the desire to do it necessarily. I thought, okay, this would be cool. It's sort of I can use it as something to kind of springboard it in terms of I was doing some theater still here in Milwaukee, but it wasn't anything, I didn't think that I would cross over. I didn't didn't have what I thought were the chops to get up on that stage and do that. Okay. just seemed too big. It just seemed way too big because those folks were fast and really, really funny.
Right.
And, you're looking at these folks, Joe Cortese, John Pulisic. It blew me away how really, really good they were.
Yeah.
Well,
so when you started doing workshops, though, was that kind of, you came in here and you're saying you were a shy kid. Did that pull you out of this shyness?
Oh, totally, 100%.
Yeah.
And that's why I encourage people to take the workshops, because it taps into a portion of your self-esteem and confidence that you didn't know you had.
Right.
It forces you to come out of that shell, and you are allowed to be that person that you see on stage in your everyday life. Like your confidence improves, your posture improves, your ability to think on your feet improves, your ability to work as a team member improves, everything. Like it literally improves every aspect of your life.
Right.
And it really helps everyone.
Yeah.
There are a couple of exceptions. I've seen a few folks come through the workshops and I'm like, oh, you're still doing it, huh?
Oh, good for you.
Well done. I'm glad you like it.
Workshop for life.
Right.
So you were in workshops. What year do you think that was? 92, 91, 92?
I want to say 91, 92, maybe 93.
So that was like Rolly Cafaro.
I had, Rolly was in. Rolly Cafaro was in there with me. I believe Mark Redlick.
Mm-hmm.
Bo Johnson was one of my instructors. John Polesnik was one of my instructors. Tom New would come in and teach us Shakespeare.
Oh, Shakespeare, yep.
He was great. Paula Foley would come in and do music. And I'm a terrible singer, but she taught me to stop being fearful of music and that it wasn't about how you sound, but commitment. And more than anything else, commitment to things will get you through a lot.
Well, speaking of commitment, I'm going to jump around on the timeline here.
Oh, no. Your
delivery and commitment when you did accents was amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't do it. I mean, you did it, but you didn't.
No. I can't do accents.
No, I can't either.
Yeah.
So you would get an accent in a game.
Yeah.
You're Irish.
Right.
And what would you do?
I would just speak in my normal voice.
It worked. How did you make it work?
I don't know. I think because I would commit to it and just be like, would you like a potato? Right? Like I would do my best and commit to it with my worst Irish accent.
The crowd would go wild for you.
I would really, really try. My commitment was there. I was big on, because I have an ear for accents. So if I hear it, if you say it to me, I can repeat it back immediately.
Right.
But if I hear something else, I'm screwed.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. You'll be in a scene and like you're Irish, I'm German, and Kyle is Italian.
Yeah.
I can hear it and I've got mine. But as soon as one of you guys start talking, it's gone.
Over. Yeah, I can't. I don't operate like that either.
Right.
And then if somebody's like Scottish, I'm like, I just can't do it. Right? Like, like there's not any. So I would go into this kind of vaguely European, like, yay, oh yeah, yeah. So,
you committed, and your delivery was so bad, but it was so good.
Yeah.
The crowd would go nuts. I remember being up there. I want to say you were French. For some reason, I remember that. And I remember being on the sideline and you going up there and just speaking in your voice. Now, whenever we would get accents in the show, I would have a panic attack because I'm so not good at them. And I would go to someone on my team like, okay, speak French to me. Speak it in my ear so I could hear it and I could try to remember it. Like you said, and hear it. Yeah. Okay, I can do it. I want to say you were French. And I'm panicking on the sideline for whatever accent I had to do. And you come up and you just start talking in your voice. And I'm like sweating, freaking out. And I'm like, wait, how come he cannot do the accent? Everyone loves it. And I'd come up and they'd see me and they're like, boo.
I don't know.
And you rocked the delivery.
Yeah, it's delivery, I think. Commitment, right?
Commitment.
Like I would commit to doing my best. I hypnite the audience into like, this is French, you all.
Yeah.
Like, this is what the French people sound like. Welcome to France.
Welcome to Hi, I'm Al. Welcome to France. They're like, oh, I didn't know they sounded so similar to us.
It sounds just like a Wisconsin accent.
That's so weird.
Yeah.
So tell me then, you're in workshops. How did you start playing then? What was that about?
So I got my first show, I think somebody must have not shown up, right? Like, and Dick was there, and Dick was like, "Hey, you want to do the show tonight?" And I was like, "What?
Oh, like you were waiting tables?
Yeah, I was waiting tables.
Okay.
And I was like, "What? Are you kidding? Like, I don't have a uniform." Like, I tried every way to get out of it.
Oh, you didn't want to do it?
No, I was terrified. I was terrified because it was Angelo, it was Joe, it was John Polesnik, it was Brian Green, it was
Bruce
Tom
Brinker.
New. No, Bruce wasn't back yet, but it was all the heavy hitters were in the show. And I immediately, and this is not untrue, I threw up.
You did?
I did. I threw up.
Oh, no.
And I got the worst case of diarrhea I've ever had in my life.
You had the anxiety poops?
I did. I had the anxiety poops. And I threw up. And then I was like, well, I got to do this.
I got to do it.
And it was the best show I've ever had in my life. And Angelo Farina, after the show was done, he was like, nice job. And I was like, oh my God. Angelo Farina said nice job. And Angelo, if you remember Angelo, he did not give out compliments.
No. He would go up and tell you how terrible you were.
And so for Angelo to say, nice show, was like, holy shit, like Angelo liked the job I did. Yeah. And I couldn't stop shaking. And then I was like, oh, I got to go back and wait tables for the second show, right?
You had to wait for the 10 o'clock.
But it was the coolest thing. And I was like, whatever this feeling is, this adrenaline and everything else, I want to do this again.
Okay. So it hooked you in right away.
Yeah, totally hooked me in. And then I think it may have been Peter Alberts who was like, we got to get this guy on the schedule, who was really like was really cool about getting me on the on the roster, and he was really, really cool about it. And I owe him a lot for that. And really rallied behind it. So yeah, he was a cool dude, and so so I started calling in, got some shows, got some remotes, and then started doing it.
You were just regular there. You were there all the time.
Yeah, I stopped waiting tables. You know, I would. It became where I would wait tables occasionally rather than do shows occasionally. So and I really got to love it. Yeah. And I got to meet some of the. I mean, the experiences were amazing of working at ComedySportz. It was just one of I got to go to Kansas City and play in one of the tournaments. Yeah. And I got to see tournaments here in Milwaukee, and I meet so many cool people. And the friendships that I made at ComedySportz have been amazing. I mean, these are people who comics can be dark and they can be depressed and they can be awful and they can be mean, but they are true friends and they are really, really lifelong. And some of the people that I have known 28 years, nearly 30 years. So that's long time.
Long time.
Yeah, really, really long time.
So we're thinking like 93 is when you started playing?
Yeah, roughly 93, 94, somewhere around there.
Okay, okay. And then at some point you started teaching?
I did. I started teaching workshops. I was 33 when I remember that. I remember that because I remember turning 33, and for whatever reason, that number stood out for some reason, and I just remember, I'm 33 years old. Yeah. And that was a big wow, I'm 33 doing this, right? Like I don't know why it was such a big deal, but yeah, I was 33 and it was my birthday when I was teaching workshops at that particular time. Okay. So yeah, I was 33, so that would have been I got to do math. 2002. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So yeah.
And so you got to do a little bit of teaching, which is what you were gonna. And what did you think? What was some of the major things that you tried to impart on your students that was really important?
More than anything, commitment and confidence and creating a stage picture so that the audience could see you. Because I had a theater background, I wanted to make sure that we didn't see your butt, right? Like more than anything, I wanted to make sure that the audience could see your face at all times. And the one thing, I can't remember who it was who taught me this. One of the instructors who came through was like, if they can't hear you, they can't laugh. So you have to be loud. So always work on your volume and project. And that stuck with me. So projection was a big thing.
Right.
And commitment. More than anything, commit to your joke. Even if you don't think it's funny, you got to commit to it. Like commitment is everything. You got to stand up there with the confidence, believe in what you're saying, and really own it, no matter what it is.
Well, that's incredible, though, to hear a journey from you saying you were a shy, kept to yourself kid to suddenly you're teaching people to have confidence and commit.
Yeah.
Like, do you see how far you came as an individual? That's amazing.
I do, and sometimes I'm astounded because it's not I'm astounded at my own journey, like we're going to have an Oprah moment, but I'm astounded that something like ComedySportz can do that for somebody.
Yeah, it's
because
awesome.
It really, you can see how it changes people.
Yeah.
You really can see how it changes
Yeah.
people and how it takes like a little kind of nugget of something and turns it into something bigger for somebody, and it really can improve like over time and really create confidence, self-esteem.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I've seen young people who are in the high school leagues really blossom and bloom because of it. And that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like it's very, very cool.
Now,
and so, yeah.
Now, how do you think it helped you throughout your life? Like, how has it helped the other things you've done?
Yeah. So I educate now, working, I cut hair for a living and I own my own salon. It has absolutely helped me in terms of educating to be able to speak in public. I travel, so I get to speak to strangers all the time. And I don't have any fear of that. Like, I just get up on stage and talk to people and tell them about what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it. I can think on my feet really quickly. I'm not afraid of questions. I'm not afraid of meeting new people. I'm now really, really easily, I can meet people very easily. I don't have an issue going up to strangers and talking to them. Sometimes that's terrible. Right. There are times that I'm like, oh, I got to get away from this person.
Because they won't stop talking. I've done that too.
And that, I think, is the curse of people who are extroverted, right? Like all of a sudden you're like, damn it, I started talking to this person and now I can't get out of it.
Right, because they are talking nonstop. Dave will do that to me.
Yeah.
Dave will be out in public because I always meet a friend wherever I go. I make just friends.
Yeah.
And he'll turn to me like, can you not talk to these people? Can we just go in and get out?
Yeah.
Don't talk to everybody.
Yeah.
But I do. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And
Yeah.
we set up a code word now. So if I say to Jerry, pretty please, Jerry's my husband. If I say now, pretty please, then he knows to like get me out of this conversation.
Me out of this situation.
Please, like pretty please. Can you get me a soda, pretty please?
Pretty please. And he's like, on it.
So he knows. Because it's like, I can't talk to this person for another second.
Oh my God.
But you don't want to be impolite, right?
Well,
you don't
of
want to
course
be rude.
not, because you started the conversation.
Right. But it's like, this is getting weird. Like, this person's getting weird.
Pretty please, pretty please, pretty please.
Right.
So if you could take a time machine and go back and tell yourself as a little kid, like, look at what's going to happen. You'll be extroverted and talk to people and won't be so shy.
Yeah, I would absolutely enjoy the journey, but come out sooner, right? Don't be so afraid to come out and own it, right? Like
commit,
right? And be that confident person that you think you are.
What did you want to be when you were a kid?
I wanted to be a cowboy dinosaur rider.
A cowboy dinosaur rider.
Yeah,
they didn't have that major in Madison, though.
They didn't have that.
No.
But when I was a little kid, I thought, like, when I was real little, I was like, I'm going to ride dinosaurs and be a cowboy. I thought that was a legit job.
Your parents
I don't know why.
sure.
I don't know why. I really did want to be a cowboy when I was a little kid.
Did you?
I did. I wanted to be I never wanted to be a doctor. I never wanted to be, and I didn't want to, I didn't want to work on television. I really wanted to be a teacher. And I am working as a teacher.
You do. You
of
educate.
sorts.
Yeah,
I educate,
yeah.
right? I just educate adults now rather than educating
Those
kids.
little kids,
right?
darn it.
And I love what I do.
Yeah.
I really do. And I cut hair full time, and I love that as well.
Yeah.
So I don't have any issues with doing what I'm doing.
That's awesome.
But it is definitely not. When I was a little kid, I was like, and then I'm going to cut hair for a living. No, that is not.
You wouldn't have thought that wasn't on your radar.
Yeah, I mean, I had a theater teacher in high school who she pushed me. She's such a great woman. Kathy Juarez is her name, and she pushed me to do hair and makeup in high school, and then post high school for a repertory company.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And had she not I would not be where I am now. I have her to thank for my career.
Really?
Yeah, she really. I don't know if she saw something in me,
Yeah.
or if she was just like, this kid has a talent, or get him away from me. Like I can't stand him anymore.
Did you ever get to tell her?
I did. I
good.
made sure I told her. And she's still alive and still kicking and
Yes.
still, she's no longer teaching, but she is a really cool woman. She was a very cool woman. And she was one of those teachers in Northern California, Santa Rosa in Northern California, where, we didn't call her Ms. Juarez. We called her Kathy, right? Because she was a theater teacher. She was one of those, right?
Yeah.
And she would give us our assignment. We had to work on scenes, and then she would leave the classroom, and then you were expected to work. She wasn't going to sit around and watch you work.
Yeah.
And if you didn't work, your
That's on
grade,
you.
yeah, it was
Right.
on you. And
Yeah.
so she taught you to work hard for yourself. And so she is an amazing woman, and she was an amazing teacher.
Oh, I'm so glad you got to tell her that.
I'm so grateful to her every day.
Yeah.
I think about how much there are people in your life, and I'm sure lots of people know this, that just really shape. Teachers are amazing. Teachers do a job that they are not given credit for, that impact and have an effect on you for years to come. And they need to be given credit for that, especially, and I'm not saying this to suck up, especially art teachers
Go on.
and teachers in the arts, because there is a safe place for the weird kids.
For the weird kids.
in the arts.
We try.
Yeah.
We try. We bring them all in.
Uh-huh. And it's really a place to allow them to expand.
Yeah.
I know it's different now, but at the time, for me, 1986, 87, when I graduated from high school, you didn't have a place to come out. There was not, even in liberal California, there wasn't a place to come out.
It was,
And I'm sure she knew, but still, it wasn't,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you were saying that you did some theater, so you've done scripted work, and then here you were doing improv. Do you have a preference? Which one you'd prefer? You felt more
I prefer
comfortable?
improv.
Yeah?
100%. Scripted stuff scares the out of me because you are reliant on another person to remember their lines, and then you are reliant on remembering your own lines. And in improv, it's like whatever. Right?
I'm a dinosaur cowboy.
Exactly. I'm a dinosaur cowboy, right? And if somebody goes off script, it wouldn't matter.
Doesn't matter,
right? And if somebody were to forget something, and trust too, because if you trust your performer on stage in improv, it's so much easier.
Yes.
Where a lot of times you're like rehearsal, but if somebody blows their line on stage, you're like, oh, we're screwed.
What do we do?
Screwed. And I've blown lines on stage for sure. And I remember once doing a show, and I blew my line. I didn't know. I completely forgot my next line. And rather than handling it like a professional, I just started laughing like a 10-year-old girl. Just like, and I could see the other actors on stage just staring at me
What's
like,
he doing? What's he doing?
together.
What's he doing? He lost his mind.
And I was like, I don't know my line. Somebody help me. It was awful. It was awful.
So an improv at a comedy
Right.
sports show doesn't matter.
Right. Somebody would have helped me.
Right, help me. They jump in and they help.
Nobody helped
Oh
me.
my God.
It's terrible.
So you were in the peak of Summerfest shows too. I'm assuming you
Yeah.
did plenty of Summerfest
I
shows.
did. I got a couple of Summerfest shows, yeah.
And back then, that was like, for people who don't know, in Milwaukee, there's a huge music festival called Summerfest every summer. It's about 10 days, I believe. And there's musicians from all over the world come in and perform there. But they used to have a comedy tent. And this seated I want to say
I think it was 3,000 people.
I was going to say
3,000 or 6,000.
Yeah, 5,000.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
And then there was usually standing room too. I mean, so there was times you could be doing a show for near 10,000 people with the seats and the standing. And they would bring in national comedians who are doing tours, but ComedySportz would perform there and usually open for these comedians. So if you got a Summerfest show,
Oh my God.
you were like, had it made. You knew you were a part of it then.
Right. Yeah. That was a wild time.
Yes.
Yeah, you really had to work hard at those shows. Oh, it was terrifying and so fun.
Yes.
And such a great place to learn a different type of skill to do that stage.
Right. Well, because you had to be on mic, which was different than at ComedySportz in the arena. You could move around stage and the audience could hear you. Yeah, but in a show that big, you have to really be on mic, so you can't be as physical.
Right, yeah. It was crazy. It was so crazy. Oh my God. We got to meet so many cool people though. I mean, we got to meet Jon Stewart, right? Before he was Jon Stewart. I mean, he was Jon Stewart, but before he became...
His name was actually Ed
McMahon.
Ed Jones. But
right. Before he became the Jon Stewart that he is today, we got to Gilbert Gottfried when he was just Iago in...
Aladdin.
Aladdin, yep, thank you. Paula Poundstone,
right?
Who was bizarre.
Really?
She was so weird. She was so weird.
Why? What's the story?
She was just like
in her
because we had our own, like the Stinky comics from Comedy Sports had their own dressing room, right? We had a trailer.
Yeah.
And it was really, God, comics just stink, right? But that's a whole nother podcast.
That's a whole other episode.
Welcome to Comics Stink. But
let's go smell this trailer.
Right. Let's see what farts smell like.
Rolly would win.
What do antidepressants and farts smell like? Welcome to Comedy Sports.
Check.
So we had our own trailer where we would get dressed, and then the comics, the like headline comics, had their own trailer as well. And I remember she was in there like rolling around in her outfit, like kind of like whining and being weird, and it just was like, this is Paula Poundstone. And because I was a huge Paula Poundstone fan, so I really was excited to meet her. And then I was like, oh, I guess maybe now's not a good time.
Are you okay in there?
Yeah. But it was really cool to get to see. I mean, that was a wild time. Yeah. I mean, people would wait all day long to see those comics. So we got a chance to really hone our craft and figure out what's funny and what's not funny. And I remember, I got booed once. I made a joke about Oprah Winfrey. Now, Oprah is still like the most powerful woman on television, right? Even though she's not on television anymore. But I made a joke about Oprah having bingo wings.
Having bingo wings?
Bingo wings, you know, like the fat underarm, right? I made a joke about her having bingo wings, and the whole tent booed me.
That's a loud boo.
It was a loud boo.
Oh my God.
Booed me off the stage. Booed me off the stage. And and that, I will say, is a powerful feeling. Like a powerful like to have, it had to be 3,000 people boo you. I was like, wow. And I remember Holly Natowski was on stage with me, and she just looked at me like, huh.
What are you going to do?
And gave me this look like, how about that? And I remember being like, yeah, all right. And I was just like,
how did you ever get back on a stage after being booed at Summerfest?
I did, we just went. We just kept going. Like, you just learn to just keep going. Like, the next joke that's the one thing that Comedy Sports teaches you, just keep going.
Yeah.
The next one's just as funny. Just keep going.
Just do it again.
Yeah.
Did you ever have the opposite happen?
Yeah. I got a standing ovation. This was early on. This was really great. And this was early on. John Plesnick, bless his heart. Joe Cortese, too. Joe, we used to play musical chairs.
Oh yeah,
right. One of the great games. I'm not a singer. I will say it 100 times. And pulled out of the hat disco. I was the last person up. Pulled out disco. Sang a disco song. At the end of it, the crowd stood up, gave me a standing ovation, and I was like, holy crap. And I was like maybe 6 months into it.
Nice.
Yeah, and it was one of the weirdest experiences of my entire life, because I was like, what is this?
They like me?
And Joe was like, take another lap. And I was like, what? And he was like, go bow. And I was like, okay.
They gave you a standing
Yeah, it was the coolest thing ever. This was not at Summerfest. This was at the regular Comedy Sports.
But you had both ends of the extreme here.
But I was like, a standing ovation for this stupid musical thing? That was like a 15-second kind of.
Because the crowd does not believe what we do.
Yeah, right.
I mean, they think this is a scene you've done a million times before.
Right.
This is scripted. Or they think gibberish is a made-up language. Speaking of that,
oh no,
they think we cheat at games, which I assure you we don't.
No, we don't. No.
Never.
No. No.
But I have to say,
No, we don't cheat. I will say that like with all certainty.
right.
But
I remember performing, and this was at the old place, which was the new place. So after Cults, we went to Jefferson Street. And you were still waiting tables every once in a
Sure,
while.
yeah.
I remember leaving the room for
Yes.
6 things. So the guesser, I was a guesser out of the room. For
6 things is a guessing game where you're given 6 items that you have to purchase from a grocery store or 6 activities you have to do.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so, but then we shake them up. So if it was like, you're bowling, but instead of a bowling ball, people would yell out, watermelon. And instead of 10 pins, you're actually.
Jell-O.
Yeah, you're bowling down Jell-O, what flavored Jell-O, and who are you competing against? Axl Rose. So you totally get these crazy suggestions. So while the referee is getting these suggestions, the guessers are out of the room. Well, I'm a guesser once. I'm out of the room. This happened maybe once or twice. And you were waitstaffing that night.
Yeah.
Well, you come out, and I assure the audience we don't cheat.
Yes.
You come out, and you turn to me and the other guesser, I can't remember who it was, and you're like, oh, by the way, you're bowling with a watermelon, and you're bowling down, concrete flavored Jell-O, and you're playing against Axl Rose. I'm like, oh, yeah, whatever, Al, real funny. And then they call us back in, we're not thinking of it, and they start miming out the activity with gibberish.
Right.
And at the end, I'm like, am I bowling with a watermelon? You told me what it was. And it was such a mind warp because I was like, he wouldn't do that. He would never do that.
Right.
And other times you would totally make it up to get in our heads.
Totally,
you would always make it up.
Yeah.
You'd be like, you're playing bingo against blah, blah, blah. And it was a lie. It was all a lie.
Yeah.
But once or twice you actually said what it was,
Yeah.
and it was so bizarre.
Yeah, I used to love to just mess with people just because it was so fun for them to be like, what? Like, because for me, it was like for a show of one, right?
Right.
Because I could see on stage that you guys were like, oh my God, it is.
It is bowling with the water.
But what about, I thought it was an octopus.
Right.
But it's not an octopus. I thought, and because you couldn't out me. You couldn't be like, well, Al said.
Al said, though, he told me.
Audience, I know that Joe had said that no, he can't hear us, but Al just told me.
You would mess with people.
I did love to mess with people because
Yes.
I had been doing that but at that time, probably 3 or 4 years, maybe even longer.
Yeah.
So I had seen 6. I mean, we used to do 6 things, 5 things every show.
Every show.
And we had gotten Elvis, Jell-O. So many times.
Right.
And so, yes, I still will say no, we were not. I was not giving you guys the answers.
No.
That probably happened twice.
Probably.
But I would often mess with you guys.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I
That
would
was-
very
so
often mess with you guys.
How would you explain your specific Al Oldham sense of humor?
Oh, I've got a pretty dark sense of humor, right? Like I like to take you to dark places. Pretty self-deprecating, right? I like to turn the humor on myself. I'm not a punch downer. Like
No.
I'm not one of those who likes to make fun of other people.
No,
I find that
never.
really, really terrible.
Yeah.
Situational, right? Like I like to see the humor in things. I don't think things are off limits in
Okay.
terms of humor.
Yeah.
I'm very much a person who thinks most everything can be joked about. Ask Aaron Rodgers.
That guy. Eesh.
Yeah, I'm not, but I really, I'm not, I wouldn't say topical necessarily, but I try to stay witty. I don't tend to go for cheap. I'm not ever going to be, although I do love a good your mom. I do love a good
your
your
mama
mom
joke.
Yeah, I do. I'm
Those
a
are
big
fun.
fan of your mom. You know, like
She's a fan of yours as
Right.
well.
anytime I can slip in a good your mom, I'm like, oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Right. I still laugh at, there's some things like, and this like gets brought up a lot, but how about them apples? That still makes me laugh. Like that still makes me laugh. And that made me laugh even before Good Will Hunting. Like,
Did it?
It did. That was one of my favorite
Yeah.
jokes. Like that goes back to like Elvira. That's like how about them apples goes back to
Elvira.
Elvira.
Yeah.
Like that is, and I know that's cheap humor, but there's something about that cheap, like the cheaper the better.
Yeah.
And sometimes movies like Clue, like that kind
That's
of
a fun one.
right, like that kind of sharpness.
Yeah.
As I love it. I think it's really funny. Lucy, Gilda Live, like that's another thing I can
Yeah.
watch 1,000 times if you've ever seen that. That kind of humor, that sort of situational thing where if you were to like dissect that stuff that she's doing on Broadway, nothing about it is funny. It's all driven by characters. But it's really because there's something about the characters that she's created that's really funny. Kristen Wiig does it, and she
Yeah.
does it really well. Will Forte does it, and he does it really well. Bill Hader does it really well as well. Kate McKinnon is really good at it also.
I love her.
right?
She's great.
Yeah, they're all really, really stellar at building these characters that somehow you see people you know or something about it that resonates with reality.
Yeah.
And so when I see things like that, there's something about it. It's why I think Judd Apatow movies are so well done and so well received. Like I've watched This Is 40, I don't know how many times. And I laugh at Melissa McCarthy every single time in that one particular scene.
Yeah.
I've watched that 100 times. And Eddie Izzard, I think her name is.
Yeah.
I don't want to like screw that up.
Yeah.
Her bit in I can't remember which one, Dressed to Kill, is one of, there's this thing she does where she's talking that Frank Sinatra died.
Okay.
Have you seen it?
No.
Oh my God, it's so funny. And she's just doing this thing where she's just with her eyes. And it's the funniest thing. Go back and watch it.
I'll have to go back and
It's
watch
really
it.
funny.
I'll have to go back.
We got the opportunity. Dave Bogan, Rowley, Brian Green. Who else was there? Maybe Joe and Holly. We all got the chance to go see her in Chicago.
Didn't you guys all take a limo down there?
Took a limo down.
I
It
remember
was
you guys leaving and
amazing.
doing that. Yeah.
Great show. Anyway,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, what kind of games did you like at sports?
Oh.
What kind of games were your favorite?
I liked scene games, right? I think
Yeah.
most of us are like that. I wasn't a big fan of the gimmicky games,
Yeah.
right? Rosie Friedman, bless her heart, was so
R.I.P..
good. I loved
Yes.
her at, in terms of, I watched her play Arms Expert.
Arms Expert.
She was hands down the best
Hands
person
down.
at that game. Hands down the pants. She was the best. I have never seen somebody so fearless
Yeah,
in terms of playing
yeah.
that game and so good at it. Oh my God, she was really good at that game. And I used to watch her just from the sidelines to see what she would do. Again, it's one of those things. I would just watch her almost trying to like dissect it because
Right.
she was so good at it.
Yeah.
And she was fearless in terms of that she would go for the zipper and she would go for the pockets and she would go for
Well,
the
explain the
boobs.
game for people
So
that don't
for
know.
Arms Expert, it would be one person standing. It's like a camp skit.
Yeah,
Right? That's
totally.
what's so terrible about it, or could be so terrible about it. One person is standing in front of another person, and so the person in front puts their arms behind the person. So the person standing behind the person in front is now acting like they don't have arms, and the other person is in the back is now their arms.
Right.
So and she would go for it. And
She was
like,
amazing.
And unbutton shirts.
Yes.
Take clothing off.
Take
unzip
wallets out
zippers,
of pockets, take
wallets out-
money.
Right. Throw it.
Yes.
She was so good, fearless. Just she knew how to play that. She
Mm-hmm.
understood the tiny bits that made the game funny
Mm-hmm.
without it being cheap. She was amazing. I was never that good at that.
Yeah.
I wasn't good at those kind of gimmick games.
Right.
So I was like the scene games. I liked any kind of scene games, although games like Chain Murder I loved.
So guessing games are
Guessing
fun,
games I
yeah.
liked. Anything where I could give away the answers, right, to the people while they're outside the room. I'm kidding, of course. I love those games. I would run out and be like, and then you're bowling with
Oh my
Elvis.
God. People still talk
I
about
know.
it to this day. It was
It's
so
terrible.
bizarre.
I did not give people the answers.
No.
I don't want people to think that, but
No, not
Yeah,
at all.
that's
Wait,
the
Sam,
legend.
don't do that.
Right, no.
It's the legend of it. But so Al, I want to know where the story came from your nickname, Al of 1,000 Dances Oldham.
Oh, Roger Hebner gave me that nickname.
Roger gave you your
Roger
nickname?
gave me my nickname, believe it or not. I did not have a nickname, and my last name is Oldham, and I didn't want anything that was like geriatric pork, right? Because it's OLDHAM, right? And I
Why is that so funny?
right, and that's the easy
Right.
kind of gag, and I didn't want anything like that. So Roger was doing Mr. Voice for whatever reason at the time that I started performing.
He was speaking?
He was speaking, yeah. He
Words.
would introduce us. Yeah, he would introduce us.
Wow.
Yeah. We still had Paula doing music.
Yeah.
But we didn't have a Mr. Voice. So I said, I don't know, Raj, why don't you give me a nickname? And so he tried out a couple.
Really?
Yeah. And he gave me a couple, and I was like, there were a few before. I don't remember what they were. But when he said Owl of 1,000 Dances, because I used to dance behind the bar. Like whenever the music was playing, I used to love to dance behind the bar. And so I was like, yeah, Owl of 1,000 Dances. I like that. And it stuck.
It stuck.
Yeah.
All right, Al, in front of
Okay.
you here, I have a bunch of comedy sports games written on different pieces of paper. You're going to pick two games. We're not going to play it, but I want you to tell me which game, explain the games to the audience, and then tell me which game you'd rather play in a show. And if you don't know the game, just grab another one.
So shopping spree and replay at Bernie's. All right, shopping spree. I used to love shopping spree.
That's another guessing game.
Another
That's a good one.
guessing game. I really love this because you were the owner of a store, and you would people would be coming in trying to buy things from you or returning things that they had bought from you, and they would be made up objects like a poodle that doesn't have any hair because it ate too much Lego, but you couldn't say, "Hey, I want to return this poodle because it ate too much Lego and it lost all its hair."
Right.
You had to hint at the owner of the store to get them to.
Right, and then the owner would try to guess and figure out what you were talking about.
And it was awesome. I loved this game. It was really good. I love that game. That's one of those few gimmick games that I really loved. Replay at Bernie's, I'm assuming this is a replay game, but somebody's dead?
Somebody's
and you're moving their
dead,
arms?
and you're dragging them around.
Yeah, you're dragging them around.
Like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah, like Weekend at Bernie's. I would love to play that. It seems like a fun game.
Well, when we're done
like a fun
recording, you,
game.
me, and Kyle are going to give it a try.
Right. Seems like that would be a fun game. I did love the replay games. I always loved those, like the opportunity to get to do the same 3 times. I remember when I was there, they added one that was like, give me an age. And it was like 7 or whatever, fill in the blank. And it was like, all right, now you're all 7-year-olds.
Yes.
And it was just hilarious.
You were good at that.
That was so funny.
That was good.
Thank you. It was super fun to do, to get to get in touch with that childish portion of yourself and get to play again. Yeah, it was really fun. Yeah,
what were your
really
other favorite suggestions for a replay?
For replay.
Accents, obviously.
Accents. I was so good at accents. I really liked any kind of, like, at the time, Terminator was huge, right? Like, so we used to get that a lot. So any kind of action movie. I was a big musicals fan, so that was always good. Although Milwaukee's terrified of musical
Not so many
stuff.
music games.
Yeah.
But when you were talking about musical chairs before, I remember that was fun, but also terrifying to play.
But the audience loved
They
it.
love it.
They
You just make up a
always
song,
love it.
boom, and people would back
They
you.
always loved it.
Yeah.
And I never understood
Yeah.
there was too much fear involved, like in people not wanting to perform it. And I realized that you have to have a really full crowd for it to really work.
Right.
Well, but the audiences really went for it.
Yeah.
Right. And I
We should
never
workshop that. We got to bring Paula back and workshop that.
I thought it was really well done. I just really always loved any kind of musical game. And I'm not a singer.
Yeah.
Right. But I would always say, yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're gonna play a speed round.
All right, good.
I'm gonna do a question. You're just gonna give me the first thing you think of. All right. You mentioned Three's Company earlier. Ropers or Furley?
Ropers.
Ropers.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So Chrissy, Cindy, or Terry?
Oh, that's a good one. I gotta go Terry because she's the one I remember more.
Okay.
Yeah, she was the nurse too, right?
She was the nurse. If you go back and watch it, she reminds me a lot of Holly Ignatowski.
Really?
The way she delivers her comedic lines, I always think of Holly.
Holly and Rachel. Listen to how Rachel delivers her lines in Friends.
Okay.
And Holly. It's the same timing. It's the
Really?
same. Yeah. There are times when I listen to Rachel that I go, oh my God, that's Holly Ignatowski. Like it's so, their timing is really the rhythm of how they speak. Because I'm often like, whose voice is that? I'm like, oh, that isn't Holly.
All right. Favorite food?
My favorite food?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fried chicken.
Fried chicken.
Love
Favorite
fried
place to
chicken.
vacation?
Ooh. Mexico?
Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mexico.
Yeah.
If you could go in a time machine, what era would you go visit?
1920s.
Not dinosaurs. You could be a cowboy
No,
dinosaur.
not dinosaurs. Yeah, I'd be too afraid to be eaten. Yeah. 1920s, like the Great Gatsby kind of that era.
All right. Would you rather drink a shot glass of your neighbor's saliva or eat a tablespoon of dog toenail clippings?
Oh, toenail clippings.
Really?
Yeah, I'd rather. I don't know that I could do this, the saliva.
They're both
If
are
you saw
pretty
my
gross.
neighbor.
Oh, this is another one. Would you rather drink half a cup of a stranger's saliva or eat all the hair out of your bathtub drain?
Oh. I guess I'm going to go with the bathtub drain.
I guess if you're going to make me.
That's great. Right. That's hilarious.
Well, Al, thank you so much for coming and doing this. Maybe someday when I get to play with my favorite people, you will
Who else
come
is
down.
on your team? Tell me.
Let's see.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Well, boy, I haven't thought of the list in a while. You, Dave Tooney.
Oh, Dave Tooney's great.
Dave
I forgot about
Tooney?
Dave Tooney. I love him so much.
Yes, Dave Tooney.
I want to kiss his stupid face.
No, he does have a stupid face.
I mean
love
that
it.
in like a good stupid
I
face.
know.
Right?
Yeah, you, Dave Tooney. Probably Holly Ignatowski, of course.
She's so awesome.
Yeah. Joe Cortese, I would love. Brian Green, he and I sometimes would have really fun chemistry. And Rolly Cafaro,
Yeah, that's great.
right?
That sounds like a
But you know,
super
I'm
fun
like
team.
naming all these people from back when I was playing at the
Right.
heyday of when I was down there.
Right.
You know, now Rolly plays every once in a while.
Yeah.
Brian Green plays every once in a while.
I'm sure there are people down there now that are fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, my God. I didn't even mention my husband. Wah, wah. Al, thanks for coming. It was a hoot.
Right.
And hey, my listeners, welcome back to season 2, and we will see and hear you next time. The ComedySportz Podcast is produced and engineered by Kyle Hanneken. Our announcer is PJ Rockwell. Feel free to like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Comments and inquiries can be sent to the ComedySportz Podcast at gmail.com. Created and hosted by me, Christine Rollo Capriolo. Thanks for listening.
The ComedySportz Podcast is an independent production made by CSz players. The views and opinions expressed by the podcast host and any guests are their own and do not represent the views and opinions of any CSz location or CSz Worldwide. Vocabulary used by the host and guests is not necessarily representative of the CSz brand.